What's up, everybody? Ethan Kwan here, and welcome back to another dynamic episode of the Real EQ Podcast. This is the show where I have real conversations about life, business, and becoming the best version of yourself with people that I actually like and admire, and I actually do want to learn from. And so, if you want to grow, regardless of what you're doing, where you are in life, but you're ready to do it now, you're in the right place. Today's guest is Candice S. Knowles. Now, Candice is a property and development attorney and the founder and CEO of CheckC, a groundbreaking Bohemian tech platform connecting clients with vetted service providers across home services, renovations, and construction, while also bringing structure and clarity through project management solutions. Beyond the work, Candace is deeply passionate about anything authentically Bohemian. She's a lover of the ocean, fashion, and a strong advocate for the arts, bringing creativity, culture, and innovation into everything that she does and builds. Guys, something else about Candace is I can't even remember when we met, right? I don't remember how we met, but it feels like it's one of those relationships that feels like it's always been there. And I had the opportunity to work with Candace on a very special project, Operation Collaboration here, which was the expansion of our studio. But we'll get into that. But Candace, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
God, you look good.
Thank you so much. I think it's very interesting that this is really my first podcast interview.
Wow, really?
Yes. So I'm very excited to be here. Thanks so much.
I'm so excited to have you here. Now, Candace, I've had the opportunity and the privilege to know you and work with you closely on several different fronts. But for those who may not be familiar with who you are, I know we had an awesome intro, but just share a little bit more insight as to who Candace is.
Of course. All right, so hi everyone. My name is Candice Knowles. I am the founder and CEO of CheckC. What we do is we connect clients with service providers in the home services, renovation, and construction space. I am also a real estate and development lawyer, so anything to do with development is honestly my passion. And people claim, they say that I have a very big and bubbly personality, so I love to just be myself, be authentic, and honestly, I'm just a lover of the arts as well. So that's where you'll be seeing me.
Awesome. Now, I like to start each episode, once we get introductions out the way, with one question.
Yeah.
And that question is, Candace, how do you define success?
How do I define success? Well, actually, I think I'll speak from personal experience. So within the past, I would say year or so, I really have dove deep into entrepreneurship and allowed me to really focus on grit, determination. So I define success as what you're doing to really progress yourself and actually being consistent with that. So there are many key factors: consistency, determination, again, grit, but also staying true to who you are and your character. Entrepreneurship is all about character building, and it's also a spiritual journey. So a friend of mine would have said before. So you're focused on progression. So success has many, I'd say, definitions, but you can't really pinpoint. I think it just depends on your experience and how you move forward with that.
All right. And so based on that definition, based on your perception of, or your definition of success, would you say that you yourself is successful?
I would say yes. I don't think it's a determining factor of it being financial. I think it's a journey. So definitely, and it's an ongoing experience, success. So yes, of course. One step at a time, though.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting because you said, for the last year or so, you really dove into your entrepreneurial journey.
Yes.
I've been an entrepreneur going on 20 years. So I say it's a bit sadistic because I'm a sucker for punishment, right? But I am very interested in, let's talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. Like, what were the determining factors that said, okay, well, you know what, I want to do entrepreneurship, and just kind of talk us through that a little bit.
Of course. So, like I started by saying at the initial part of the interview, I am an attorney, I am a lawyer, and I am very passionate about my practice area. But I also felt that because I have the relationships and the connections naturally that I've built over the years, I've always felt that there's something else for me to add to society. And so I decided to conduct my market research and figure out what it is that, well, there's definitely a void in the market, specifically in the construction industry and construction technology. So I utilized my skills, conducted my market research, and I said, Candace, you can do this. I went to law school. I've graduated successfully from university. You can also do something that is far beyond your expectations. And I've seen that progression in life. And so I decided to just move forward with the concept. And honestly, it's shown proof of concept prior to us launching the website and the app, which was 1st of July of 2025. We've been in operation since 2024. And so a lot of people don't see the journey at the initial stages, because of course I was conducting market research since 2023. Mm-hmm. So it takes time. But now we're growing. We're definitely seeing significant growth in the industry and taking it one day at a time. So I'm very proud of where I'm at. And law is still, it's embedded in me, and I'm still practicing. I'm becoming a tech lawyer with my team. So I see that as natural progression, and it's been an amazing journey.
Awesome. So what would you say over the last, since starting? Now, one would dare argue that your entrepreneurial journey actually started from when you started doing the research, right?
Yes.
And that's very similar to me. When I decided to leave the bank, literally almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
I made that decision over 20 years ago, but it took me about a year and a half just determining exactly what it was that I want to do, making sure I was quote unquote set up. But as I'm sure you could relate, like, you could never prepare for entrepreneurship. It's like getting punched in the gut, right? It's
Definitely.
like you could say you're getting punched in the gut, but nothing prepares you for that actual punch. What would you say were some of the, I guess, misconceptions that you had about entrepreneurship, if any, that over the last year has been dispelled, and or some of the challenges that you encountered that you maybe didn't anticipate that you either have successfully overcome or are continuously working through it?
Great question, Ethan. So let me tell you, when I was in corporate world, in the corporate community, a lot of people have this misconception of when you're an entrepreneur, you're able to set your schedule and you have a lot of free time or flexibility. Whilst that may be true, I've always said, even to friends, family, just in general, I don't feel as if I have control of my schedule sometimes. Because yes, I may have 2 or 3 meetings in the day, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11, but something always pops up. And I've realized, especially being a founder of a company, you can really become fatigued. And that is something that I've been exploring and honestly reassessing within the past few months leading into 2026, that you can't do it all. You cannot do it all. You need a team, you need people that are very capable, and you need to allow yourself as the owner of that company to allow your team to flourish. So those are certain things that I've been learning as well. So founders fatigue is real. You have to be consistent in terms of you creating a life for yourself. So yes, you can dive into your baby and focus on what can make yourself a whole lot more marketable or capable in the industry, but that can tire you out pretty quickly. So I would say set your schedule, make sure that you have time for you in terms of what makes you feel you. Again, don't lose yourself in the process, right? So if that means you're exercising at 5 a.m., be the 5 a.m. girly. Focus on what it is that makes you you in order for you to become a whole lot better as a business owner.
That's awesome. And, founders fatigue. That's funny because it sounds like a term that I should have heard before, but like when I hear that, what comes to mind immediately is I don't have the luxury to get fatigued, right? I mean, especially when you're building something. You spoke about team. It's like that has and continues to be one of my greatest challenges, right? As far as moving from initially a one-person operation to bringing on one or two people, now having like literally we did payroll. Shoot, today is the 30th, so payroll going of the day, and we got 16 team members that we got to pay, right? But what gets me is building out the team is an area that I have struggled with the most, right? Because getting over that. Okay, first of all, one, I have to be the one to do everything to make sure that everything is done because essentially you're trusting your baby to somebody,
Yes.
right? And this is me after literally over a decade of working essentially by myself. I'm interested in learning a little bit because from I met you, you were talking about teams. So you were a lot sharper than than me, I could say, because you had the foresight to say, okay, well, I need a team to put this thing together even before I launch. How did you go about really putting your team together, and who makes up your team?
Great question. So we have a small but mighty team. So of course, it's myself, and then I also have my chief technology officer. She's Bohemian. We also have my legal team, and yes, lawyers need lawyers. And we also have a business development and strategist. So my business development and strategist, he is also Bohemian. He works remotely. My legal and, of course, my CTO is based here as well. So we have been pushing consistently to create this product that I think can definitely become national and also hopefully regional one day. I also remember the conversation that you and I had about an assistant and completely agree. What is it that what held me back was, well, I'm actually literally opening a lot of confidential and private information to someone that I don't know. Yes, of course, you're vetting the individual, and yes, of course, you're just having to fully put your trust into someone, but it's still difficult when, and I always make the analogy, it's almost like you're taking your baby or your child to primary school or preschool for the first time, and you have to trust that teacher with your baby.
Yeah.
And so I struggled with that for a while. And another thing, how are you a startup and able to afford staff? Something like that is just I never really not that I can't understand the concept, but more so when you're in it, it's a totally different feeling. And then you have the responsibility to take care of these. Honestly, it's like your children as well. So it takes a lot of thought and commitment, but you realize at the end of the day that it's only beneficial in the long run.
It's crazy because I told I told my team this. Like I was like, at no point could I have afforded anybody. When I brought on my first team member, I couldn't afford them. When I brought on my second team member, I couldn't afford them. We literally more than doubled our core team over the last, I would say, 3 months. Last quarter, and I talk about cores, and these people are on a regular salary. They aren't independent contractors. They aren't freelancers. These are core people, and I couldn't afford them. Right, but some way, somehow, you're able to make payroll every 15th and 30th. But I think that is a fair, because I often talk to entrepreneurs who want to make that transition from that one person, and one of the first things they say is, "Well, I can't afford it," right?
Yeah.
And my thing to them is, okay, well, I don't think you could afford not to, because if you're building something great, right? If you really want to realize, and some people are fine being that one person show, and that's fine. But if you're talking about you want to build and scale your business, the reality is that you do need a team, and not just a a team, but you need a solid team. And I've gone through all of those iterations, just excited that somebody wanted to work with me, be like, yeah, I have an employee. And then, going through, okay, well, how do I find quality people? And then finding quality people and realizing that, I need somebody who sees the vision, who wants to grow with the company. And so it's all of these things, but I realized that I think the biggest lesson that I have learned in scaling my team and building out my team is that I have to lead the team, but I have to coach the individual. And where I don't have a problem now just removing myself, one of the biggest things is that the lessons that I've learned is that I can't, nor should I expect them to do it exactly the way that I do it. And so I came up with this thing, I don't care how you get to 10.
But get to 10.
Get to 10.
Yeah.
But looking at that and then seeing them do things differently. Like, mind you, now we have certain standards and operating procedures and stuff like that based on certain things. But how you get it done, I'm realizing is less important once you're in accordance with our core values, is less important than just getting it done.
And I agree. And I think there's beauty in that as well, because not everyone is the same.
Yeah.
So, of course, yes, get to 10. But I think it's just you allowing your team to fully express themselves creatively also makes you a whole lot more marketable as an entity, right? So that's something that I also admire with your team. You've expanded significantly within the past, and I agree, within the past 3 to 4 months, I'm like, who are these people over here that I'm meeting this morning, right?
Yeah.
But that is honestly applaudable because I aspire to get there as well. And I think conversations like this really inspire mutual entrepreneurs and colleagues to say, hey, I can do it too, And I think we just continue this open dialogue. And yeah, I mean, next thing you know, next year around this time, I'm having like 50 employees. You never know.
Love that. I love that for you. Now, so, we've been talking about, and I shared a little bit about Chexy, right? Mm-hmm. First of all, I remember the first time I heard the concept, I was like, this makes so much sense,
Thank you.
I want you to share a little bit more about what it is, but more so, I want you to share why it is. Like, I know you indicated that, you saw a void in the market, but like why, it almost feels like a completely different thing. You move from, you're an attorney, and in my head, knowing what an attorney looks like, does like, you're very, which you are. But then I've also seen you in jeans and tennis walking on construction sites, right? So I'm trying to figure out, so kind of talk to me a little bit about what Chexy is and why is Chexy the thing that you decided to cut your entrepreneurial teeth on?
So before I go into that, the word versatility comes up, hands down. Within the industry, within real estate, within development, within construction, you have to wear multiple hats. When I'm sitting at my desk liaising with clients, it's a matter of it being excellent. You're doing your work with excellence, and that's across the board. So I'm updating my clients. I'm liaising with local stakeholders. We're doing all of that. And I use those transferable skills in construction and technology. So you ask why, or what is Chexy and why is Chexy? Like I said, there was definitely a void in the market that needed to be filled. For instance, I'm going to speak from personal experience, and you and I have had this discussion on radio as well. Professionals or women, female professionals have been taken advantage of in the industry for so long. And I don't want to just say women. There are professionals in general that needed the service. Reason being, a lot of the vendors were not vetted. So you're making a call or you're liaising with these service providers to fulfill a service, and unfortunately, they wouldn't come on time, or it would be whereby the service is done subpar. Not saying that there aren't valuable or reputable companies in this industry nor in the Bahamas. There certainly are. And I've realized that day in and day out, especially liaising and scouting for these companies, it's a matter of exposure, great exposure. There are exceptional contractors on island. There are exceptional contractors within the Bahamas. They just have to be seen. And there are a lot of bad apples, unfortunately, that have created a negative stigma around that. And we're here to show our country that that's completely false. So that's why we're here.
Awesome. I love that. And, so for the audience, just let me give you some additional context, right? Because Candace ain't just a colleague. Candace and I actually collaborated on a very ambitious initiative in my opinion, which is called Operation Collaboration. Now, Operation Collaboration was really the idea when we decided that we wanted to expand the studio. I was actually inspired by Dr. Leo Roll and the work that he did with the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce when I heard that he did everything on, donated. They didn't come out of pocket for the renovations, and it was something like $250,000. And I was like, this is interesting. And so, I got the idea, what if we could build out this studio with an exchange of services, essentially a barter system between us and the contractors, right? The vendors. And I remember, okay, well, this is what it is, Operation Collaboration. And then, right around that time, you and I were talking, and I was like, it just makes perfect sense to partner with Chexie for this to vet and get all the vendors, right? And so for me, it was very important to have that be successful because, especially here in the Bahamas, we have a stigma that, Bahamians can't work together, right? And as you can see, guys, we're here in the studio that was completed 100% by Operation Collaboration. And so, it was a huge success. I know what my experience was, and I've shared it. What was your experience, and why was that notion of Operation Collaboration? Why did you even agree to that? And why was that notion attractive to you so much so that you would put your newly formed company behind it?
I'm glad you said newly formed company. I would definitely say I was attracted to the idea of Bahamian companies coming together, collaborating for one cause. And I agree, it is more of a foreign concept more of a foreign concept, but I did believe that it could actually happen. And it did. I'm not going to sugarcoat and say that it was easy because we know people want to be compensated financially for their services, hands down. But I'm grateful for the vendors that were open to the opportunity, for the great exposure. The mere fact that we were able to be on national television, that we actually had traditional media involved with the collaborative efforts, that showed that in itself was remarkable. So the mere fact that it just showed me, and I think it showed our teams, that anything is possible once you put your mind to it. Again, it was not an easy process, but we're here today.
Yeah.
We're here today.
I knew we were on to something.
Yeah.
Because I like the idea, right? I like the idea, but I knew we were on to something when, after we made that initial announcement, hey guys, Operation Collaboration. And I was at a chamber event on the Royal Caribbean ship. I can't remember what ship it was, but it was a chamber event. It was a power brunch. Mm-hmm. And John Gomez, the CEO of Alive, easily, arguably the largest and most powerful telecommunications company in the country, right? He stopped me. First of all, I know John, but I don't know no John. I think John, I always used to think John was one of them people who, You know, when you see people and you just say, "Hey, how you doing, man? Long time," but
Quite
you don't know who they
hospitable,
are.
correct.
I was not convinced that
Yeah.
John Gomez knew my name until I was passing him, and he said, "Hey, Ethan," tapped me on my shoulder. He said, "Man, you know, I'm watching what you're doing," and. Mind you, he called my whole name, right? But I turned around like, I want to, you
know
talking to me? So John's like, man, you know, I see what you're doing with Operation Collaboration. I'm very interested.
It
Tell me
built
more
traction.
about this. And I
Yeah.
told him, and he was like, oh man, I love that. I'm watching. And here it is. I'm like, first of all, how John Gomez get following me on social media, right? So, but the fact that not only did he see it and he noticed it, but he was so compelled and intrigued by that concept
Yeah.
that he stopped me and to share that. And him and I had a really good exchange, and I just thought that was so powerful. And then people, like literally, people would be stopping me and they'd be like, "Hey, man, you know," I had people reaching out to me and they were like, how can I be a part?" And of course, y'all got check. See, like go, y'all got to go through that process,
Thank you very
right?
much.
And then, but it was just amazing at how many people were watching. And regardless if they were watching to see if we actually pulled it off or they were watching in support, they were watching. And the fact that we were able to pull it off at the level that we were able to pull it off, like you said, nothing goes, quote unquote, according to plan. But the facts of the case are,
We're sitting in a tangible space that has been completed successfully with collaborative efforts in the Bahamas.
WAPs.
WAPs.
That's like they say, council, as stated by the council. No, but I mean, and it's an amazing thing, right? And you know, I do wish that more companies, like especially small businesses, like I really do wish that they would explore opportunities to work together. And like you said, you know, and you and I, like, for y'all who don't know, like we used to talk, like we used to go, like at one point, like I feel like we was talking at least several times every day.
Yes.
Right? Because it wasn't just checking in and seeing who was what, but like literally just going back and forth and trying to get this thing done. And I remember us having one conversation, Candace, where it was like, oh, well, you know, one of the vendors decided that they didn't want to do it, right? And I was like, well, you know, that's okay, because who is to participate is going to participate. And so Frazier's Plumbing, when they all came on, Frazier's Plumbing came on, Zoana Millwork came on, the
Integrity.
Integrity Roofing, Matthew Monroe. I mean, they came.
Shout out to them.
You know, like these guys not only showed up, but they showed up and showed out.
Yeah.
You know, we had
AG Electric.
AG Electric. We had the Pink Place.
Yes.
We had the painters. Lord, who was the painters?
We had, let's just say, all the vendors that came
Everybody that
showed
came
up and showed out.
and they produced such a
Exceptional
high
service.
quality product, right? Like everybody that walks in is like, oh my God, you know, and I laugh because some of my new team members don't know this, right? We had Mr. Berkeley and Yvette from Presidential Suites come on. They did all the drywall work, but it was as painful, quote unquote, as it was going through it, as uncomfortable as it made me feel, as frustrating as it was at times. Like I said, at the end of the day, we are here.
Yeah.
And the studio's done, and it's an amazing space, and it is the physical expansion of my operation, but it's a testament that, you know, Bohemian businesses, small businesses can actually work together for the benefit of everybody collectively. Like we can do our individual contributions to a common goal, and everybody, the entire collective, could benefit.
Agreed. And what keeps coming to mind is the meeting of the minds and the old concept of community.
Yeah.
Literally, our ancestors did it, and they were quite successful. Someone had a pineapple field, someone had onions to grow, and the same thing with our community in the construction industry. Integrity brought their expertise, so did Frazier's. And honestly, I think another thing that I loved about Operation Collaboration is these companies that may or not have had that expansive marketing reach were able to really be recognized in our country exceptionally. Not just with the update videos. Now they have exposure and opportunity through your company and exposure for that can surpass anything that would they've ever thought or imagined. And that's through social media, that's on YouTube, that's on whatever program or proposal that you come up with their companies. That's something that's invaluable.
Yeah.
That their companies can have great marketing exposure because they took a leap. They took a leap of faith and they risked their businesses at that time and sacrificed their time and effort for a collaborative effort. So I'm proud, and honestly, I'm so empowered by that experience. And I just pray that it continues to grow, that concept continues to grow in our country. And honestly, because of that, I'm very appreciative of next projects that are coming up. Those vendors have been a part of Chexi from inception. So they're more so our founding vendors, and they have incentives for that as well.
Right.
Because you also believed in me. You believed in my company, and you also believed in Operation Collaboration. So I'm extremely appreciative.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I got to shout out Fullmid Bahamas.
Yes,
Bahamas. Fullmid Bahamas. They, just like I said, when you see these companies showing up, and it wasn't all just small one, like you said, AG Electric, right? Major institution here in the Bahamas, the Pink Place. It ain't even so much that these people, quote unquote, may have needed, right? But the fact that they saw the value and they saw what we were trying to do, and they said, you know what, we can come on. So it wasn't just vendors actually providing services; it was actual suppliers providing actual product.
And
right?
what I liked about, I found that there was a common theme with some of our vendors as well. A lot of them are generational. Owned as well, companies. Fraser's being the third generation. Same thing with AG Electric. A lot of them, and I'm just appreciative of that exposure for all of them. Really.
I thought that was when I actually was talking to Devon, and he was like, he's third generation.
Yeah.
I was like, why don't more people?
A lot of people don't know
because
that.
that is something that I think is worth exploring. Not even just in the Bahamas, but because you often hear, the kids don't want to participate in the business, right? So now you have a third generation. And I mean, what he's doing with Fraser's Plumbing, just kind of blows me out of the water. But I mean, is even those stories, right? And one of the projects that we actually did for him was where he brought his dad. And his dad is easily pushing 80-something.
Oh, he's definitely
right?
in his 80s.
Right?
Yeah.
But to listen to him talk about working with his dad, and how he learned the plumbing trade from his father, and how not only has the industry changed, but the country. You talking about, almost 100 years, 50, 60, 70 years of spanning 3 generations, right? And so just how the country has changed and the opportunities that now his son and his grandkids have.
And honestly, they're so humble.
Yeah,
they're so humble
man.
about it. And Mr. Fraser, the father, shout out to him because he knows my entire family as well. So it's not just about plumbing. It's about the experience and the hospital. What's the word? Hospital. Why am I?
I know. I
Anyway,
in hospitality.
Hospitality, and you're being hospitable. Hospitable, excuse me. Don't put that in there.
Hospitality.
But anyway, so he's being very hospitable in general, even when they come on site and at projects. You feel at home with these service providers. So it's more than just the service. It's about character building. It's about relationship. Again, it's about community.
Yeah.
So that's what I like. One more thing I wanted to mention too. Integrity. Matthew Monroe, his father is also in the industry as well, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of these companies have learned from generational instruction and expertise, and I think more of those stories have to be told.
Yeah, and I mean, I learned so much. I learned so much about all of these, and it's crazy because everybody's story is a bit different, right? Like, when you talked about Matthew and why he decided to start his own business, it was because him and his dad had a difference of opinion on how business
Which
should be done.
typically happens.
You
Yeah.
know, but you have Devon who's just adding to what his father and his
Yeah.
grandfather has built.
Yeah.
And then you have a Jonathan who is, Bohemian by association, Canadian dude who
Jonathan is Bohemian now. Okay.
but you have all of these different stories and all of these different experiences and all these different businesses, but all of them came. And, like I am so glad and so grateful that we were able to do it because it did teach me a lot, but it also restored my faith because I cannot tell you how many people said that inspired them to just go after something like just, okay, well, let me see if we could work. And I actually had people coming after that. Like, we done with collaborating. And they're like, hey, let's see if there are some ways that we can collaborate. And so I had the opportunity. We did some work with Tristan from SafePoint, right?
Cool.
And he was like, well, I need some stuff done. You ain't need no lights, and so Tristan actually did all of our exterior lighting. He did our alarm system, and he did, he did our cameras, and it was one of those things where some was a collaboration, some was cash, but what got me was that like people like they see the value, they see the benefit, and so how can I participate in this as well, which I thought was awesome.
Fantastic.
So now. I'm interested now. Let's talk about Candace, the person, right? Like you've been in business over the last year. How have you grown, developed, evolved since really immersing? Like how has Candace changed since becoming a full-time entrepreneur?
How do I answer that question? Honestly, Ethan, I think stepping into entrepreneurship, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. When I say that, of course, I had a concept of entrepreneurship, but it really, I used to say, I said, I became a woman when I went to law school and bar school, specifically bar school, but you're utilizing a totally different part of your brain. And it's physical, it's emotional, it's mental. Again, like I said prior, it's spiritual as well. So I've grown tremendously in so many aspects of my life. There's a no nonsense attitude that I have about myself now, and I'm learning that in entrepreneurship, I'm realizing that it's not a 9 to 5. You're having 5 a.m. emails and you have to be able to get that out because, of course, you have a project that you have to attend at 10, or you have multiple, let's just say you have PR meetings, or you have a podcast interview. You have to be able to send out certain correspondence prior to that, or you have to liaise with your clients. So there's an ongoing grit that I feel as if I've established and establishing. There's also a lot of the unknown that you have to honestly, it's an act of faith, really. And I've grown in terms of, okay, well, I know that I've put in this work and this effort, and I know that something will work out in my favor. How? I don't know. But it's honestly the concept of faith, dedication, grit, and I'm not just listing these things. I've actually full on experienced it, and I think it's just a matter of being giving myself grace to know that this is all new to me, but also it's super exciting. It's definitely a roller coaster, but one step at a time. So I don't know if that really answers the question because I don't have a specific word to define it, but it encompasses all of that. And that's how I've grown over the past year or two.
No,
specifically.
I love that. I love that. So I want you to, if there's somebody watching right now, right, who's where you were maybe, 3 years ago when you started doing research for Chexie, who is on the fence, really should I really take this leap of faith. And even to qualify that. So for me personally, like, I don't think everybody should be an entrepreneur, right? I do believe that, and if I'm being 100% honest with myself, and I wasn't so far gone, there was this thing that I learned about several years into my entrepreneurial journey called entrepreneurship, right? Where you operate as a number two or number three under somebody who has taken the entrepreneurial leap, but it gives you enough proximity to the entrepreneurial experience, and so you get to do that, but you're really coming in as a key support, right?
Yeah.
If I had known that that was a thing, I may have done that instead of going into my own business, because there are benefits, because you have the entrepreneurial experience without the entrepreneurial headache, because it ain't you who got to figure out how your team getting paid. It ain't you who got to figure out this. You just play your role. But you have that proximity, right? And so, I like to play around with the idea that maybe if I had known that was a thing and there was somebody that I admired that much, that I would have played that role too. But, if somebody is saying, you know what, I want to do this entrepreneurial thing, I'm on the fence, what advice can you give them right now? Okay, well, this is the thing that you should be prepared for. Like, how can you prepare them for making that step? You being several years in yourself.
I would say there's no definitive response to how to prepare, but I can say, if you feel as if you know within yourself that every day you wake up feeling that I have to fulfill my purpose, I have to fulfill something that is burning inside of me, and you can't let it go, please move forward with that dream. Move forward with being honest with yourself and honest with the world, because that is something that you need to give to us in order for us to thrive in an environment. For instance, when I knew I needed to do something in the entrepreneurship space, I needed to fulfill my purpose with Chexi, I felt as if every day that I did not work on my company or work towards launching the app as well as the website, I was withholding from opportunities for others to experience what's needed in the industry. So the mere fact that I stepped out on faith, it allowed my company, my team, the industry, the market to say, finally, we have this service. Finally, we have this product that is fulfilling our needs that we've been wanting and seeking for so long. And that's when I knew, okay, I was being obedient to fulfilling the purpose that God placed on this earth for me. So I guess the response to your question is, be obedient to that pull that you're feeling inside of you and do it unapologetically, because this is not a time for you to be shy. This is a time for you to be on it, consistent, and do it with excellence. So that's my response.
All right, Candace, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Where can people find you if they want to reach out to you, either for Chexi or, just follow your amazing entrepreneurial journey? Where can people find you?
Alrighty. So again, you can follow us on Instagram at Chexi Baha. So that's CheckCeeBaha. We also have Facebook, LinkedIn. So that's just Chexi. And of course, we have TikTok as well. So it's Chexi _ on TikTok. So expect exceptional marketing and opportunities, hopefully within the next few months. But in any event, I'm very excited for our progress. And of course, you can follow us on check out our website at chexi.com as well.
Guys, like I told you, you were in for an awesome conversation. I do hope that we were able to add some value to you. And like Candace said, if you're feeling that pull, like, be obedient to that. And As I say all the time here on the Real EQ podcast, get uncomfortable and do the work because the world needs your greatness. Until next time, guys. Peace.